bum, bum. G'day everyone. I am just waiting for Instagram to go live and for a few people to come on board. So hopefully you will be entertained. Hello to our first viewer. But welcome to our first, to our Live for 30. Thank you for all those that have joined. Welcome. Before I kick it all off, I am going to turn off this music, even though I do love the track. So, Above and Beyond, great music. So, Live for 30 at Liana James. What's it all about? My name's Tony, and I'm one of the principal hairdressers here at Liana James Hair and Beauty. We, over the next 30 days, we're talking hairdressing. All different things about hairdressing. So we've already covered things like washing hair. We've already welcomed people to the salon, did a bit of a walkthrough. We have talked about sustainable salons, Di Lorenzo and Behave Hair Care, because they're our preferred hair care options. And we're tonight going to be touching on Di Lorenzo again, but this time we're hitting the Prescriptive Solutions range. So, as we progress through all the different times and days, we are going to talk about all different things. So we're also going to talk about dismissing some myths. Now, there are all types of myths to do with hair. G'day, Dean from Electrical Services. Anyone that needs to get their electrical services done, get in touch with Dean from Eco Electrical. So we want to dismiss some of the myths. So I need people to actually tell me some of the myths that they've been told, wives' tales, whatever. It can be all sorts of stuff. We're going to have some fun that night when we do it and talk about myths in everything to do with hair and myths about that. We'll be interviewing. I've just had someone appear at the front of the shop here. I'll turn around and they can wave as well. We'll be talking about, we'll interview experts in our industry, Di Lorenzo, or a whole bunch of other experts, like people in sustainable salons. We will also have people here, hopefully from Behave Hair Care as well. There will be one new entertaining program that I'm going to have for everybody, and that is going through all the different hairstyles that I have been through. That episode will come up at some point between now and when we finish the lives. So I can't tell you when, because I want people to keep watching, but I think a lot of people would find that quite entertaining to see all the different hairstyles that I've been through. And yes, I did have hair, believe it or not. Also, which will be very entertaining, I think, we will talk a little bit about my adventures in Ibiza, and I'll have a bit of a story to tell wrapped around all that stuff to do with my hair. So I'll have my cousin and hopefully a very close friend of mine, Tommy, cousin Jamie, and hopefully Thalia as well will join us for a bit of a conversation on what happened in Ibiza. So stay tuned. I don't know when it's going to come up, but it should be very interesting. Now I want this to be interactive. So, if you have questions about anything that I'm going to talk about tonight, please fire away. Let me know what those questions are. I'll be happy to try and answer those questions. So I'm going to start off here, and it doesn't even have to be about the topic, by the way. We've skewed off in all different tangents with people that have joined us. So whatever is burning and something that you'd like to watch, something that you'd like to watch or talk about, let me know what that is. So, Prescriptive Solutions range. I'll turn the camera a little bit so you'll hear my voice, but you'll see. Oh, our favourite segment, I forgot to mention, is what's hot and what's not. Tonight's going to be all about 80s hair. There's a bloke in the background, and we know exactly what hairstyle that is. But yes, tonight will be all about Prescriptive Solutions, and we'll get into the crazy hairdos of the 80s a bit later on. Should be a lot of fun. So, Prescriptive Solutions. We have this is the top end of really Di Lorenzo hair care, has to be said. The two areas that are focused on here is in the purple range, and everything in purple is sort of to do with moisture and everything in the green range, which is just this one over here, is everything to do with oil issues. Now, there's sort of the two major issues that you end up having in hairdressing. So people come to you, they either say that I've got an oil problem on the scalp, or that their hair is really dry, limp, etc. These two are specified hair care products for those two issues. Interestingly, and probably there'll be people out there that feel this anyway, is that people might have the combination. They might have a little bit of oily scalp and a little bit of dry ends, and that's never a good combination, but I'll touch on how you can solve that issue as well. I'm just going to do a few waves while I'm at it. Might as well make it a bit fun. So, the moisture balance range is really designed to give the hair as much moisture as you possibly can. Now, obviously, moisture leaves the hair for a whole bunch of different reasons, but it is important that we re-nourish moisture. 97% of the hair is made of protein, the other 3% is moisture, and then there's all coatings on the outside with the oils, etc. So this range comes and solves two different problems. So someone that's not required that much moisture or doesn't have that thick a hair but is still dry can go in the Revive range, and I'll show you that to you. So you have a Revive conditioner, or if you have a major issue, you can get the Prescriptive Solutions in the Intense range. Okay, only one shampoo, so everyone gets to use the same one, but those are your two different options when it comes to your conditioner. And like I said, depending on what condition you have and what condition you're trying to solve will determine on what we think we should prescribe to you. Second is our control range. So again, one shampoo, that's all. But then again, Revive, Intense, really bad, not so bad, I should say, oil on conditions on your scalp. Revive, bad, or really, really oily hair, Intense. And you can actually migrate from one to the other. So you might find that you might start with Intense, but then eventually get down to Revive, and maybe even move off it completely. There's a big misconception, maybe this is going into myth territory, that conditioner is bad for your scalp and subsequently adds oil. There probably is some conditioners that would do that, but this conditioner is specifically prescribed to actually try and solve this issue. Now, I'm going to draw this on a piece of paper, so bear with me, and then I'll show you what my piece of paper is, and I'll explain it. Now, what I'm drawing is pores and that haven't been conditioned properly, and then pores, which is the space where your hair comes out of, where the conditioner is done well. So, here we are. So you'll see over here, those pores are open, okay? And underneath your head sits a sebaceous gland. If you leave those pores to be open by not applying conditioner, which is generally what actually moves the hair into that perfect pH balance, you will leave those pores open. If you have an overactive gland, more oil will seep onto your head. It's a problem. If you use the right conditioner, especially one that I just showed you now, you can actually solve that problem. You can actually get those that pore to actually shut over tight. The added benefit of the Prescriptive Solutions range, especially in the control, is that it will also deactivate or make less active the sebaceous gland that sits underneath the follicle. So you have one problem solved, which is the actual pore itself being closed, and then you have the second problem being attacked as well, which is getting that sebaceous gland to not be as intense. So, again, not the most conditioning for the ends. So if you have an oil problem, but you have a moisture problem on your ends, then you can maybe do a combination where you use a little bit of the Prescriptive Solutions on your roots, try to start controlling that issue, and you use some of the Prescriptive Solutions moisture balance on the ends. And we do this quite often, actually. Recommend this type of solution to people. Now, every time I've given this away to people, just here, go. This is what I say to you. This is what works, and I promise you it works. And if it works, then you can come back and pay for the product. It's happened countless amounts of times. Okay, it is just what actually happens. I've done it with family as well, because people just don't believe that these things work the way that they're meant to work, and believe it or not, they actually work the way they're meant to work. So pretty cool. Now you might think, well, I don't really want to do 2 conditioners and a shampoo when I go in the shower, which I think is fair enough. We do have another option, and that might be that if you have an oil condition, you use the control shampoo and conditioner, but then you can get these 2 lovely fellas. One's a Revive Again, one's an Intense, and that is a hair moisturizer. You can use that anytime you like, a bit like a hand moisturizer if you like. Put it on your ends after you wash your hair. After you've washed your hair, you can do it before you start drying, or you can actually do it well and truly after it's dry, and after a few days if you're feeling like it's a bit too dry. How often do I need to wash my hair? There's no rule. I mean, anyone can do anything that they wish, but my suggestion is 2 to 3 times, once or twice a week. Now, there are people that are going to have very messy jobs. So I'll explain it very simply for, tradies, someone that's a plumber maybe, or an electrician also. They might feel like their hair gets really dirty. People might go exercising every single morning, and they want to make sure that their head doesn't smell when they're going into the office or whatever it is, even though we're not going into the office at the moment. Whatever your situation, you don't actually have to wash with shampoo. I've explained this before. Your hair at a pH sits between 4.5 and 5.5 when it's Mickey Mouse. Okay, shampoo moves it slightly out of that 4.5 to 5.5 range, and then conditioner brings it back into it. Okay, but water by itself sits at a pH of 7. So it will do the cleaning for you. You'll be able to get in there with some water, and actually disrupt any of the dirt or issues that you have. If you're really messy and dirty and you need to give it a wash, give it a wash. It all depends though. Like, I get that males might, when you don't have a lot of hair and you don't color it, the frequency of shampooing probably is not going to be that much of a difference, even conditioning. When you have hair that's really long, it's old hair. It needs to be looked after. You need to get the oils that would normally get onto your hair onto the rest of your shaft. And if you can't do that, then you need to replenish the ends of your hair with oils and conditioners and moisturizers, if that's the issue that it has. If you have really fine hair, you might be using too much moisturizer, and that's why it feels limp and really doesn't get any body into it. So there is a science to it, and it's important that you make sure that you see your hair specialist to get some good advice on what you should do. So if there's any other questions out there, please shoot them through. I'm about to obviously go across to my other segment. But just a quick reminder, moisture balance in the prescriptive range if you have a moisture issue. If you have oily scalp and it's way too often, there is the control range. If you're finding that you have to wash your hair every day because of an oil issue, you have an oil issue, I hate to tell you. If it looks like an oil issue and it appears like an oil issue, it's an oil issue. So come and see us. We can give you some advice on how best to look after that. And finally, we have some moisturizers that you can chuck into your hair after that. A lot of fun. You can have a lot of fun with our moisturizers as well. So again, anyone will need to ask me a question. It doesn't have to be about the range. It could be anything to do with hairdressing, anything to do with our salon. I'll be more than happy to have a conversation about that. But for now, the fun part of the evening will begin, which is our is it hot or is it not? So hot. And today we're going to be inspired by the 1980s. So if you just give me a second, I'm going to try to get this strapping young fella, and those that were in their prime in the 80s will probably have a good laugh here. Those that are looking back because their parents were in the 80s in their prime, then you'll potentially have a laugh to see what your parents look like. The mullet, yes, I know it's back, and I'm not a fan. Now, even back then, not so much of a fan. Like the colour, not too bad, looks okay, but imagine him with a good hairstyle. It'd look a lot better. Just my opinion. Again, the same thing. If you want to have a look and zoom in, I mean, this is worse than the other one, I have to say. Not a fan. I get that people loved it. Just not a massive fan of it whatsoever. We're going through a few blokes, and I'm going to skip past another mullet. But look how short they went on top, man. Like, that is like a porcupine. I don't know what they were thinking. The glasses are back though. They're back in fashion, aren't they? Hope the current mullets don't go like this. I mean, they look actually a little bit harsher than the old school ones. But anyway, what can we say? Good looking fella, has to be said, Mr. Hasselhoff. We know why he was in Baywatch, don't we now? But the hair. We're here to talk about the hair. He couldn't do much else with what he had. Maybe he had straight hair and permed it. Who knows? It was an in thing. I love curls personally, and I like people that like to rock curls. So good on him. Again, there we are. Very microphony, isn't it? You feel like you want to talk to him almost, or talk to the audience through his head of hair there. But again, very handsome fella, has to be said. We'll skip past that one because it was very much what the fish is all this about. Honestly, I don't know what I have to say. I get people can be expressive. Like, I'm totally up with that. But you know, there is expressive good and there's expressive not so good. So very Ace Ventura, I would probably put this under. Again, it was this big. It was like comb through the side, and then it came over the top. I mean, I don't know what the inspiration was for it. The look. Now I can't read it here. Donald Trump. That's actually quite funny. I'll zoom in on that one. Apparently that's a Donald Trump. It's backwards for you guys, but you can see that says Donald Trump. Yeah, I can see it. That is 100% Donald Trump. Yeah, I love it. Very funny. And literally, he's next on the list. That is actually quite hilarious. I haven't seen this list before, so it's a surprise to me as it is to you. Yeah, I mean, that is very much in the same era. Well done, Donald. This guy does not have a chin. Do you notice that? Look at this. It's just neck, mouth. Neck, mouth. That's it. Now, oh wow, Rick Astley, never gonna give you up. Anyway, I'm not gonna sing because I'm terrible at it, but great artist. Maybe not so much artist, but very good songwriter. Did it for a lot of artists. Not a fan of the hair. Am a fan of the hair. Personally, fan of the hair. I don't mind it. Bit of a buff head, but looks okay. G'day, Craig. Here he is again. Now, long hair. It's in. You know, my brother-in-law is very much rocking the long hair look. So, not surprising. It's back again, and it was back in the 80s. So, personally, I'm a fan. If I don't like a lot of hair, I would be criticised of being a bit jealous. So, I do like a lot of hair. If the person can pull it off. Alright, so that's the men. They can go away now. Now the women. This is where we're going to have some fun. This is where it all starts off. They love the big colour in the 80s. Maybe not so much on the hair, but very much around the face. Curls. Curls were massive in the 80s. I mean, the perming era was the 1980s, really, wasn't it? But this was a stunning version of it. I mean, today people are looking for curls like this. Maybe not exactly like this, but that big curly hair, sometimes blow waved or done through a straightener. That look is pretty much timeless. It's actually quite classy. It looks good. Again, I love curly hair. I've said it a million times, and I appreciate it, I should say, on the right person, and if they pull it off really well. So that is her. Apparently, mullets were in even for the girls. Yep, you know it. You see it right here. Mullets for women. Personally, I would not recommend this to too many clients. That's just my view. Now, moving right along, high pony with a little bit of a fringe here. I know a few people that wear this as a quite often. It does look very nice, eco. Thank you, Dean. Yeah, look, high ponies never really go out of fashion. It's a high school girls look. So there you go. Aquanet bangs. I don't know what the hell that's all about, but I don't think that's what we're talking about there. I think we're talking about these curls, actually. So, permed hair, massive, big, frizzy, has not made a return like this. I mean, the only time you see a return like this is when people invite you to an 80s night. That's pretty much it. It's interesting. We'll leave it at that. Effectively, there were a whole bunch of white people trying to get black people's hair, or African American hair. So, yeah, that's just my view. Big hair, crimping. Crimping was a big thing in the 80s. People loved it back then. It sort of made comebacks here and there. People were just toying around with it, which is really cool. Maybe it'll make a comeback, who knows? It's very girly, young girly, I have to say. So, again, the perms back in. Really curly, really frizzy, really big. Like I said, the inspiration seems to be African American hair. And I love when African American people use their hair, the natural hair, and wear it out wide. Why people that didn't have that wanted to do it, I don't understand. Personally, I didn't live then, so I don't know. I'm guessing rock stars and pop stars were wearing it, and that's what inspired them to do it. Massive colors, big, loud, all over the shop. That says 80s all over it. It says 80s pop star more often than not, has to be said. Anyway, was I a fan? Am I a fan? I wasn't really around back then, so it's hard to say was I a fan, but not necessarily. I don't think I would personally think that this looks great, and I wouldn't be recommending it to people to wear around town, personally. And our last but not least, I believe, on this list is, well, this is sort of like loud. It's almost got a little bit of the whole mullet happening here. So shorter on top, bit longer through the ends and sides. Colour all through the bottom, and really quite blonde, bleached heavily through the top. I love the fashion colours. I maybe wouldn't be styling hair like this today, but I love the inspiration in terms of where they've tried to place colours, etc. Style from a haircut perspective, not a fan. Thumbs down for me. But thank you for allowing us to use this website, saloniris.com. So that's it for today's episode. If you have any other questions, please DM us. Like I said, coming up in the future, we'll be doing an episode about my hairstyles. Yes, believe it or not, I did have hair, and yes, I did have different hairstyles. My hair and not my hair, and you'll have to see what I mean by that when we get into that episode. But in the meantime, stay tuned. We'll be here tomorrow. I don't know what I'll be talking about, to be honest. I have a list of things that I'll sort of tick off, and hopefully you'll be joining us so that we can interact a little bit. And please, like I said, DM me so I know exactly what it is that we can have a chat about and what needs to be answered out there. Thank you for joining, and thank you for being with us, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye. Boom.